Welcome back to another explainer on the Same Herakli channel. Today, we are diving deep into process mapping for internal auditing. Honestly, think of this as getting that ultimate bird's eye view of your organization's daily operations. Let's get right into it. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the basics of process mapping, walk through a real-world purchase process example, break down the actual steps and common symbols you'll use, look at exactly how we apply this in internal audits, and then wrap up with some best practices. So, starting off with Section 1, Basics of Process Mapping, let's lay down some foundational groundwork here. At its core, process mapping is literally just a visual representation of the sequence of activities, decisions, documents, and handoffs in any given process. It's what helps internal auditors understand how work is actually performed, identify risks, assess controls, and improve efficiency. Imagine trying to navigate a massive, complex maze while you're standing right in the middle of it. I mean, it's impossible, right? That is exactly what auditing an unmapped process feels like. Process mapping simply lifts you up above that maze so you can see every single turn, dead end, and exit. So what exactly is it doing? Well, process mapping really does three key things. First, it shows the flow of a process from start to end. Second, it captures all those specific activities, decisions, inputs, outputs, and the responsible parties. And third, it gives you a super powerful analytical tool for understanding these processes. To put that into perspective, think about hiring a new employee. A good map shows the flow from the exact moment a manager requests a new hire all the way to that employee's very first day. It captures every interview, every hiring decision, and exactly who in HR is responsible for what. Now, what's cool is how every objective in process mapping yields a direct, tangible benefit. When your objective is to understand how a process works, boom, you instantly gain clarity on roles and responsibilities. Identifying risks and control points, that directly leads to better overall identification of those risks and controls. When you aim to detect inefficiencies and bottlenecks, you achieve improved process efficiency. It's like suddenly realizing a payroll approval has been sitting on one manager's desk for 3 days. Ensuring compliance with policies and regulations naturally brings the benefit of better decision-making. And finally, when we support process improvement initiatives, we are rewarded with significantly stronger governance and compliance. All right, moving right along to Section 2, Purchase Process Map example. Let's see what this actually looks like in a real-world scenario. Let's trace this out step by step. We always begin at the start oval. The very first process step here is raising a purchase requisition. So, say John in IT needs a new laptop. That request leads us to a critical diamond-shaped decision point, manager approval. Now, if the answer is no, the arrow loops us right back out, process over. But if the answer is yes, we keep moving forward. Right, so after that yes, we generate a purchase order, the vendor confirms it, the goods arrive at the loading dock, and then we move straight into invoice verification. And notice how these physical actions perfectly generate our audit paper trail. You've got the purchase requisition, the purchase order, the goods receipt note, and the invoice. As an auditor, you now know the exact 4 documents you need to request to test the specific process. No guesswork involved. Finally, we hit one more decision point for payment approval. If it's a yes, we make the payment and reach the end oval of the process. Mapping it out like this is a total game changer for spotting vulnerabilities, because without this map, key risks, things like unauthorized purchases, fake or duplicate vendors, goods not received, incorrect invoices, or delayed payments, could go completely undetected in a giant sea of unorganized paperwork. Which brings us to Section 3, Steps and Common Symbols, because now we need to know how to actually build one of these ourselves. Building your own map requires a bit of a strict methodology. Step 1, define your process scope and objectives. Are you mapping the entire supply chain or just the warehouse dispatch? You gotta choose. Step 2, identify your exact start and end point. Step 3, list out all the major activities and decisions. And Step 4, identify your required inputs, outputs, documents, and systems. Once you have all of that defined, Step 5 is to map the actual sequence and flow. Then comes Step 6, which is absolutely crucial. You must validate this map with the process owners. You literally have to take it down to the factory floor or walk it around the office to make sure reality actually matches what's on your paper. And finally, Step 7, review regularly and update. A process map is a living, breathing document. It is not something you draw once and just hide away in a desk drawer. The good news, you do not need to be an artist to draw these. You just use this standard visual vocabulary.
Ovals are your start and end points. Rectangles represent a specific process step or activity. Diamonds, those are your decision points. Parallelograms represent inputs and outputs. The little document icon, well, that represents a document. And arrows just show you the flow and direction. Sticking to this standardized setup means that any auditor, anywhere in the world, can instantly read your map.
Okay, Section 4, Internal Audit Application. Let's take all of this and see how it applies out in the field. When you're out in the field, you are going to use these maps to really understand the as-is process and pinpoint those critical control points. You can effectively assess both the design and the operational effectiveness of controls. Like, you can check if that manager approval step is actually happening in real life or if it just exists on paper. It allows you to spot gaps, uncover hidden risks, and find real improvement opportunities, which ultimately supports your entire audit planning and reporting cycle. Almost done. Let's hit Section 5, Best Practices and Takeaways, and wrap this up with some final golden rules. When you're mapping, keep these good practices in mind. First off, keep it simple and clear. Don't get bogged down in tiny micro steps if a higher level view serves the audit better. Focus on the truly important steps and risks. Always use those standard symbols we talked about. Always involve the actual process owners, and, I can't stress this enough, keep your maps updated whenever changes happen. So if you remember nothing else, here is your key takeaway. Process mapping helps internal auditors see the big picture. It helps us understand exactly how work flows, exactly where things can go wrong, and exactly how controls operate. It is without a doubt the absolute foundation for risk assessment, control evaluation, and process improvement. Which brings us to a perfect final mantra for any auditor. Map the process, understand the process, improve the process. It really is just that straightforward. You simply cannot improve what you don't understand, and you certainly can't understand what you haven't mapped. Which leaves me asking you this final question. If mapping is the absolute foundation of uncovering risk and evaluating controls, are invisible inefficiencies, hidden bottlenecks, and undetected risks lurking in your own unmapped daily workflows right now? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Go grab a pen, start drawing those ovals and rectangles, and I'll catch you in the next one.